today. We are almost at the end of October, our little spooky season. So I had to choose a book. Not had to, I wanted to choose a book that I have been seeing all over TikTok right now that was giving the vibe that I wanted to give to everyone. And that is a gothic dark romance. But I saw this video on TikTok, obviously, where this girl was like, hey, can we get like a diet dark romance? And I think that's what I need as well. Like, because we know I'm not too great with dark romances. Like most of the time they're way too dark for me. But if they're a diet dark romance, and that's what this was, it was perfect. It was the perfect amount, and it was kind of spooky. It was I would say given kind of Hunger Games, but in like a gothic. It's based in New Orleans, so if that tells you anything, it just the perfect vibes. I was in like a couple chapters and I texted my best friend Kat and I was like, you have to read this because she lives like maybe half hour from New Orleans. And so we've gone to visit and I've gone through all the French Quarter and like all of it. And so like reading this book, I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. So gothic, dark, supernatural. What other was it giving me? Devils, ghosts, ghouls, phantoms, necromancy. What else? Like this was based in the early 1900s. It didn't really say, but from like context clues, that's what I gathered. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. Let's talk about something else for a second. At the beginning of November, I am hitting my 3-year anniversary for this podcast, and I want to do a giveaway. And in that giveaway is going to be this book. So this is Drop Dead Sisters by Amelia Diane Combs. So I was privileged enough or lucky enough to get an advanced copy of this. And it was chosen for Mindy's book studio. So Mindy Calling, I think that's her last name. She was on The Office. And she's been in a lot of different shows. She's super great. She recommends this book. This was on her list. And also this was on Amazon's First Reads, which is where you can like sign up for it. I think anyone can sign up for it, but you get first access to books like a month before they are published. So this book was on that list for October. And this book is being released on November 1st. So you probably won't get it before November 1st, but you will still get a hard copy. And there'll be a bunch of other things in that giveaway. And I'm just really excited. I probably will announce it next week. So be on the lookout for that. It's just going to be really fun and free stuff and, all the social engagement. So definitely be involved. Definitely do something. So anyways, okay. I don't think I have any other announcements, just the giveaway, because today's book is Phantasma. And I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I'm going to assume that I am. It's called Phantasma by Kaylie Smith. And I want to say that this was released pretty recently, or I have just seen it all over TikTok recently because it is giving the perfect October vibe. So I knew that I had to do it this month. And I'm really excited to talk about it. And I'm going to not do spoilers very much because there are quite a few spoilers. For the most part, there'll be a little bit, but there is a really big twist at the end. And even like 3/4 of the way, I was like, whoa, what? I'm not going to tell you those spoilers so that you can still listen to this episode. So if you kind of want like the summary, the very broad version of this book, definitely stay tuned. Definitely keep listening. Because it also has some really good underlying messages as well. I did read the back of the book where the author has like her notes, her thoughts, and I really, really appreciated it because she talks about her struggle with OCD and her inner thoughts and intrusive thoughts. And that's a part of the story with our main female character, Ophelia. She has this her shadow voice, which is kind of this voice in her head that's in like the deep part of her head that tells her like, hey, your family's going to die if you don't knock on this door 3 times, or if you don't pass through this door in 5 minutes, this bad thing's going to happen. And it's throughout the book that there's this shadow voice, and it's really cool to see her growth, the main female character's growth with this voice and the elements with that. And it was really interesting to know that Kaylie Smith, the author, kind of based it off of her own mind and with getting comfortable in her own head. And I really, really liked that. I really like when an author kind of puts a piece of their life into a main character. And it's just really cool. It's just really, really cool. Like I said, this is kind of a darker book. It kind of is violent. Not enough actually, it is kind of violent. Now that I think about it, it's more violent than most books. And I think that's what makes it really dark. But basically, they're going through all of these different levels of this trial, and they have to beat the other person, to get to the next level. And it gets kind of gruesome. It gets rough because they need to beat other people. And so, yeah, I'll get more into detail with that. But it gets kind of dark, if you know what I'm saying. But I'm excited to talk about it because it is based in New Orleans. And I love that place. I love going to visit. I love the vibe. I love, they mentioned like Mardi Gras. They mentioned, the book mentions like the parade and the different crews. That's what it's called when you're part of like a parade float. It's a crew, like Krewe maybe, or Krew. It's very, very cool. I loved it. So like I said earlier, kind of based in the 1900s, and there's 2 sisters, Ophelia and Genevieve, and they are necromancers, and their last name is Grimm, which I think is cool, like Grimm, and they come from a long line of necromancy, and it is the oldest daughter that usually passes it on. And one night, Ophelia wakes up and she just knows something is wrong. So she goes downstairs and her mom is dead on a rug. And so she wakes up her sister. They have to do this ritual in order to pass the magic on to her. And so they do this ritual. She gets the magic from her mom, from like the generations. And what I thought was cool is that necromancy, I guess, is a bridge between the corporal plane and the other side. And so her mom had this business, and I think her grandma, and that's what kind of passed down, is that they would help these individuals with their kind of ghostly needs, or talking to someone on the other side, or just that, very, very supernatural situations. And I really liked that. So her sister has no magic because she is the second daughter. After their mom dies, a couple days later, these 2 men show up and they say, hey, your house is going to be foreclosed on. Your mom hasn't been making these payments. Come to the bank with us. And so Ophelia is like, wait, what are you talking about? But Genevieve kind of seems like she knows what's happening. And so they go to the bank and the bankers are like, yeah, she didn't pay this. Like, you're in a lot of debt. She took out these loans. She took out all this stuff. And Ophelia's like, oh my gosh, like, okay. So they go home that night. And I think on the way home, Genevieve goes and is like, hey, I'm going to go be with my friends. And so they're passing this big house, this big manor type thing that they call the Devil's Manor. And Ophelia gets kind of drawn in. And so she goes up to the door and opens it. And then she hears this voice that is like, you shouldn't be in here. What are you doing? And she's like, I think this is a phantom, or I think this is like a ghost of some sort, or there's like a couple other things that this person could be. And he's like, no, he calls her Angel. He's like, you need to leave. And she's like, how can I help you? And he's like, oh, you can't help me. So as she walks away, he says something about like a key and a heart, or his anchor or something like that. So she doesn't really think anything more of it. The next morning, she can't find Genevieve. And so she goes through Genevieve's diary, And in this diary, she is talking about this competition called Phantasma, which goes around to all these major cities and has this competition. If you, let's see, I wrote it down. It says this phantasma at this devil's manor is a place where nightmares roam free, but the dream of winning a magical prize keeps participants rolling in. So they're only there for maybe a couple weeks, and then within 48 hours, they're at a whole different place. And so people participate. There's multiple groups, multiple people can do it to get this wish or to win like this prize. And we find out that it's like a devil's wish or something, or a devil's grant, that they could basically wish for anything that they want or ask for anything. So she finds in Genevieve's diary that she's been obsessed about this competition. And then Genevieve has also been mentioning this person called Gabriel. And so she's like, what is happening? So she's not able to find Genevieve, and she's looking all around. She doesn't really know her friends. Ophelia is very like, she only stayed really with their mother because she had to learn the business. She had to learn the magic. She didn't really have an outside life. And so she doesn't really know a lot about Genevieve, about her life and everything like that. And so she assumes that her sister has entered into this competition. So she's like, okay, I need to enter this competition so that I can go and get her, because we're assuming that the sister entered this competition to pay off this debt. So she's like, okay, I will enter as well. It'll be fine. Like, I'm a necromancer. Like, I have this little magic. Like, I can talk and work it out, basically. So within this competition, so they enter into this big manor, and there's multiple groups, like I said, and they're all kind of kept separate. They each have their own room, and they go through 9 levels. They call it 9 levels of hell. And they're allowed to forfeit at any time during the competition, except for when they're in a trial. When they're in a trial, they have to say this specific phrase, and then that certain devil will come and get them out of this trial. So there is a trial that happens every day, and in between those trials, a haunt could happen. So that's where ghosts are involved, or they take, to be able to enter into this competition, the devil that like admits you into the manor takes like your biggest fear. So at any point during this whole thing, they could kind of push your fear onto you. So you really don't know like what's real and what's not real. And there's like these ghosts that could show up, and you could get hurt, like really hurt. At one point, she has this ghoul coming out of her bathtub with like all this blood. Like, it's kind of creepy. Like, that's why I'm telling you, it's like dark vibes, like creepy. And so if you like horror movies, you will definitely like this book, because it just kind of gives you the willies, and you're like, oh, I don't even know how long I would last in that place. Like, that's scary. Like, I can't even do like scary movies. How would I do this? So any point you can forfeit, and they go through these trials, and they're each led by a devil. So they eat their dinner and everything, and then a different devil each time appears, and you get these clues, and you have to try and remember the clues, because once you go into this door, it kind of takes you to a different plane of reality. And so then you have to try and get through this trial. So like one of them was like greed, one of them was lust, one of them was violence, one was wrath, like those different, like gluttony, like the different sins, you know? And so you have to try and figure out how to get through it, how to beat other people. And that's where like the killing kind of starts. Like, people get very, very like intense about it. But the first day, Ophelia meets this phantom, and his name is Blackwell. And he's like, hey, I will help you, or I can help you with the trials, getting through to the very end, if you give me a blood deal, or blood bond, or I can't even remember the right word, but basically if she signs over 10 years of her life, at the end of her, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if she gives him a decade of her life in years, then he will help her. And so eventually she's like, okay, let's do this. I need to get to the end to find my sister, like, whatever. And so he helps her throughout this whole thing. And of course, they get spicy. And the spice level for this, maybe like a 2 out of 5. Like, there were some spicy scenes that were kind of descriptive, but you can easily like skip over it if you want to. And I didn't say the mother sister standard at the beginning, but I don't think either one would like this because they don't like this vibe. They're very happy go lucky type books. I think this would be just a little bit too dark for them, but I absolutely would recommend to my sister, or to my best friend Kat, and I would recommend to everyone that likes dark romances, dark like supernatural, even like the show Supernatural with Sam and Dean. If you like that show, you would definitely love this book because it just gives that vibes of like evil, like fighting evil, like finding these ghouls and ghosts and phantoms and devils and making these deals. And it's just cool. It's a cool book. And the characters were really well written. The story kind of was slow in some spots that I was like, okay, come on, like let's get to this next part of the book, or this next trial, because we find out that Blackwell, which is that phantom, he was the ghost phantom that she met at the very beginning, where he was like, hey, need to find this lock and heart and key or something. And so that's part of the deal too, where he's like, hey, can you help me find this anchor that anchors me to this manor so that I can be free? And so while after like the trials and in between everything, they're trying to find this certain, they don't even know really what it is, like a key, like a lock, a heart. They don't really know. So they're trying to figure this out. They're trying to find it. And there's a lot of twists towards like the last half of the book. A lot of twists. There's a big one at the end that I literally was like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Like, that's what it is. I had no clue. No clue at all. Maybe some people can like foreshadow these things, but I absolutely could not. At the beginning though, like looking back, I'm like, oh, that's what that means. Okay. And some things were predictable, but for the most part, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, like I'm here for this. So yeah, you have to, every night is a different level. She, of course, like you can kind of guess, she gets to the end and a lot of different mix-ups, and lots is revealed. And I don't want to say anything more because it just like, I don't want to reveal anything. I don't want to like ruin, like I feel like I didn't really put spoilers in this. Very, very good. Very, very good. I didn't really look to see if this author has more books. I want to say that she does, because her sister Genevieve is in the second book, and I can't remember what it's called, but I'm going to read the second one, because it continues the story, because they have to try and figure this mystery out, that they find out towards the end. And so I'm definitely going to read the second one. That's how you know that I liked this book, is because I'm going to read the second. Like, I love the world building, even though it was like based in like our world. It was just a supernatural twist. You get the vibe. It was just a perfect addition to an October read. It was good. So I highly recommend it. I do. I highly recommend this book. I understand why there is the hype all over TikTok. I get it because it's worth it. And it's definitely worth the hype. Very, very good. So I'm glad I could share it with you. If you have been wondering, because you have seen it all over TikTok and Instagram, everything like that. So there you go. Wherever you are, if you could follow and subscribe. Thursdays, I have my mini episodes, which are just on YouTube. They're not a podcast or anything. Last week, I did The Christmas Tree Farm by Lori Gilmore. It's the third book in the Pumpkin Spice Cafe series. So that was on there. And then this coming Thursday... what am I doing this coming Thursday? It's either going to be the Drop Dead Sisters book or it's going to be an October book haul. I think that's probably what it is because I got a lot of books, y'all. So I'm excited to show you that. But yeah, follow, subscribe, all of it. I want to hear what you're reading this October. I hope it's been really fun. It's gone so fast. I feel like October always goes so fast, but it's the best. What can you say? And then all the seasons are starting, like the seasonal November, Christmas, all that. Am I going to decorate for Christmas November 1st? Probably. That's who I am. Anyways, love you guys. Grateful for you, and I'll talk to you next week.